It is no secret that many Call of Duty fans have been upset with the franchise for a long time. The franchise has been a hit for the better part of a decade since its initial release. But for the better part of its second decade, more and more players have been complaining and leaving the franchise because of how they've been treated with the horrible states of each game. There have been many unfinished release games, a plethora of hackers in a couple of them, and very little response from developers about potential updates. It is no shock that only 2 games out of the last 5 years are in the top 10 highest selling Call of Duties. After all, there are only 19 Call of Duty games, and it didn't get popular until its 4th one came out. Generally, it has looked like developers of recent Call of Duty games have avoided their fan feedback, with many horrible changes like bad user interfaces, removal of important features, and the addition of skill-based matchmaking. They seem to try to do everything that the fan base was asking them not to do, and kept doing it. But now, there's a new Call of Duty coming out, and this may turn everything around. Call of Duty Black Ops 6 has recently been announced, and they announced a ton of new features that are sure to make a lot of Call of Duty fans very happy. And by new features, I mean that they brought back old features that many have been asking them to bring back. From the multiplayer maps to prestige mode, they appear to be going back to their roots and adding in what seemed to work from every Call of Duty before it. The question now is, will this work out in today's gaming landscape? Let's take a look at everything and get some answers. The first thing that they're bringing back is the style of their multiplayer maps. Older COD games featured mainly 3-lane maps, which shaped the style of play for Call of Duty players. Lately, they have been designing maps that seem to be more creative without thinking about the flow of the game, which obviously made the gameplay different than what the older players are used to and have known COD to be. I believe that this is a step in the right direction to help Call of Duty regain its identity, so there are no complaints from me here. Next up is the Prestige system. Personally, I think the Prestige system has gotten out of hand with 20 plus Prestiges in a lot of recent games and 17 in the most recent one. They've also recently had Prestiges be automatic, with the player not having everything locked again by manually entering Prestige mode. Black Ops 6 is going back to the classic 10 Prestige system, where the player has to choose to Prestige themselves and lock everything up again. This makes more sense to me because it fits more with the meaning of Prestige, where you earn your ranks by unlocking everything again and using what you were stuck with. Master Prestige here also goes up to level 1000, which I think is a fair compromise when integrating different systems from previous Call of Duty games. Next up, we're going to talk about a couple smaller things that are mainly just quality of life. First up, the mini-map is back again, which is always a good sign. Developers of a couple different recent Call of Duty games removed this feature, or at least the usability of this feature, which frustrated just about every normal Call of Duty player, so it's good to see that they are keeping it back in the franchise. Another small thing, which may actually be a huge thing for some people, is that they are bringing back theater mode. I remember the good old days of Black Ops 1 having many funny clips in theater mode and sharing them with my friends. I'm really looking forward to this again. This mode also helps people with gameplay as well, since they'd be able to see where grenades land when throwing them over buildings or certain walls, for example. Overall, it is a useful thing in many aspects, and I believe both of these features are more quality of life features that should have always been a part of each game in this franchise. Now we're into the brand new features, which I'm not sure how to feel about just yet. First is the Omni movement. This new system allows players to sprint or dive in any direction, not just forward, meaning players can sprint and dive sideways or even backwards. This is similar to what we see in Helldivers 2, which feels pretty good in-game, so I expect this to be a basic improvement to the franchise. There's also intelligent movement, which will automate movement techniques like sprinting, mantling, and sliding through crouch height holes. The way that Treyarch wants to view all this type of movement is to minimize friction in where you want to go, and to also further level the playing field between controllers and mouse and keyboard. I'm not so sure that different types of movement would allow for this to happen, but I guess we will see how it goes. Now obviously we can't go ahead and say this new Call of Duty is going to be good from what they're telling us. So many recent games in this franchise have let us down on launch, so we can't go into this game with high expectations. Let's just take a hint from the showcase of this game, where they say,
"The full Prestige system is available on day 1 in Black Ops 6.
This shouldn't be something to brag about, as all Call of Duties up until the mid-2010s were released with all Prestiges. It doesn't make sense that they stopped doing this, but I imagine that they thought this would raise player retention through the life cycle of each game this way. Either way, I don't think that this is their best decision, and I'm happy that it's back to normal. That was just one small problem that we need to worry about with Call of Duty. As of late, the main thing we always hear about these recent games are the sheer amount of hackers in them. Running into them in a public lobby is flat out annoying, and encountering them in ranked play makes you wonder why you even play the game. They haven't done too much to handle this problem, with the obvious hackers that promote their websites on the top of leaderboards not even getting banned. Their recent use of the Ricochet anti-cheat has helped clean up the problem a little bit, but I still don't think it's doing enough to fix the problem. Even Warzone for a long time has had problems with hackers, and there always seems to be a few in just about every every match. I'm not so sure that it's possible to get rid of every hacker since a lot of other popular games have problems with them, but Call of Duty seemed to care the least about fixing the problem for a long time. Another thing that has been ruining COD is skill-based matchmaking. Although it's not a problem for everyone, it has been a hot topic for a long time. There always seems to be a problem with skill-based matchmaking, whether it's Call of Duty or Fortnite or Overwatch to name a few. Many people just want to casually play the game without having to sweat to get a few kills or a win, which is why we always see this as a problem all the time. It has definitely killed off a good chunk of the fan base from Call of Duty at least, and I imagine it did the same to other games that implemented it. It has not officially been announced, but it does not look like Call of Duty is steering away from the skill-based matchmaking, so we can probably assume that it will be present in Black Ops 6. Now, a whole different aspect of this new game is the return of round-based zombies. From what we know so far, it appears that this zombies will be similar to Cold War zombies, as evidenced by salvage and the rampage inducer spotted in the trailer. I actually had a great time with zombies in this game, so I'm looking forward to that. Another thing that is being added, however, is Gobblegum. This is full of controversy, since there is a pretty clear divide in those that love this feature and those that hate it. Many are upset about the amount of microtransactions that get pushed in your face with things like Gobblegum, and many dislike them because it takes away from the classic feel of zombies, and that it makes zombies too easy. On the other hand, it helps people reach levels beyond what they have ever been capable of reaching, and could give a better experience to more casual players because of this. It really just depends on what kind of player you are when it comes to Call of Duty Zombies for this argument. Overall, these are all the confirmed details we have about zombies, and I think it's just a huge win overall to have round-based zombies back. One last small detail that I want to mention here is that the Black Ops 6 gameplay trailer is the most viewed trailer of any Call of Duty. I believe that this is worth mentioning for a couple reasons. The first is that Infinite Warfare is the previous record holder for this, and that is generally known as the worst COD of all time. The second is that this could mean there is a ton of interest for this game. With a ton of interest, that could mean that there would be more players on the Call of Duty servers than they are used to, and that could make for very bad gameplay. Being as big of a franchise as they are with their experience of large amounts of players, it shouldn't be a problem here. But given their history, I wouldn't be surprised if this doesn't get handled properly. Think back to the Cold War Zombies days where your game would randomly crash in the middle of a run. So those are the pros and cons I could gather from the limited knowledge we currently know about Black Ops 6. Obviously there are other problems out there for each individual person, but I believe that these are the main points of discussion. However, new games are always exciting, and the scarcity of AAA games this year may mean that this could be one of the best games we get this year from a larger company. Call of Duty is more often than not the highest selling game every year, so I'm sure they aren't worried about it either way. As long as they start to care about their games more and listen to their fans' feedback, I think Black Ops 6 should be one of the best Call of Duties in a long time. But they have also disappointed me time and time again, so I'm not too optimistic about it. They do have to compete with a new similar game, but we'll talk about that in the next video that I'll link here if it's already out. Let me know what you think will happen with Black Ops 6 and whether or not you will be playing it. Please help me out by liking and subscribing, and until next time, I'm out.